This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
Hello. Welcome to the Horror Fried Podcast, y'all. That's Michael Combs.
And that's Mike Martin.
And that's the wonderful Keith Clanton.
How y'all doing? How's your mama and Em? Thanks for joining us, guys. We're reviewing our first film in our Southern Horror series. And again, we mentioned this before, but we will not be detailing every scene. We will be discussing the movie as a whole, what we liked, what we didn't like, Southern themes, other stuff. As a reminder, the full list of movies we'll be reviewing are posted on Instagram at the Horror Fried Podcast, so be sure to check them out. We encourage conversation, so please watch some movies with us and send us your questions and thoughts. Mike.
Yeah.
Would you like to introduce tonight's film?
I mean, sure, I can do that. So just kind of a brief little synopsis for anybody that is just listening but maybe hasn't actually watched the movie yet. It would be an aging, reclusive Southern belle plagued by a horrifying family secret descends into madness after the arrival of a lost relative. What do you think? Thoughts on that synopsis?
It was great.
It was good.
But do you think it's relevant? Do you think it sounds like fairly accurate to what the movie is?
Yeah, I do. I think it was great.
I think so too. What movie are we watching?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess that would be a good place to start, huh? So the first movie that we watched was Hush Hush, Sweet Charlotte, which was, oh God, I don't remember what year it came out.
1964.
There you go.
Directed by Robert Aldrich.
Yes.
Starring your four main people would be Bette Davis, Olivia de Havilland, Joseph Cotten, and Agnes Moorehead.
Agnes Moorehead from Bewitched.
Yes.
When I started watching it, I was like, I know this woman from somewhere. How do I know this woman? I was like, holy shit, that is Samantha's mother in Bewitched.
Looks completely different.
Does not look like her at all. Well, in Bewitched, she looked like a drag
Glamour,
queen.
yeah.
Yeah, so this is
all done up.
This is a much different role. But I think it's also interesting to note that a very young Bruce Dern played John
Mayhew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is Charlotte's lover, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But
I didn't know it was him.
Bruce Dern.
I know.
Very handsome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if he even had any lines in the movie. Oh, he did.
He did. He talked to...
very briefly, though.
Well, he talked to her dad, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Papa.
Yes.
Papa.
He talked to Papa.
But yeah, Bruce Dern, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I think while I was actually taking my notes, I actually put in my notes saying something about, I don't blame her.
For having that affair?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a handsome guy. So, who wants to start off? I know y'all had a few questions that you wanted to bring up. So, well, I can go ahead and say, obviously we're reviewing horror movies that take place in the South. So for me, when I watched it, I was on high alert for Southern themes, throughout. And just some things I wrote down, like the plantation Hollis home is beautiful. It's a very Southern home. The family is self-made. They're wealthy. You've got the overprotective father. You've got a suitor trying to win the hand of Charlotte, who's, the suitor's already married. John Mayhew's already married.
Within the first 10 minutes, you have basically a big Southern party.
Yeah, it's almost like, I know it's supposed to be just a normal party, but I kept thinking, is this a debutante ball?
It looked like a ball.
It was very much like a debutante ball. That's the vibe I got.
Because it was very, suit and tie.
Yeah,
formal.
And I even put that on my notes. I put the summer dance seemed more like a debutante ball. But yeah, I just felt like it's very Southern. I'm going to go out on a limb here. and I haven't seen all the movies we're going to review, but I'm willing to bet this is probably the most Southern and probably the most accurate depiction, because even though it is fucked up, like there are people like that still live in my hometown.
Yeah.
I can tell you what their names are right now. Blackmailing rich ladies, like it's...
I mean, honestly, I feel like if you go into deep South,
yes,
those people are still there. Like,
yeah,
the houses are still there.
Yeah.
Shit, you can still drive around old parts of Murfreesboro and see houses that are built in like that period of time. So
yeah, it's true. I'm telling you guys, Miriam Deering lives in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Like, she's still there. Okay, and she's part of the women's club, and she goes to luncheon once a month.
What the hell is the Lemon Club?
Women's club?
I thought you said
No, not
Lemon's
women's.
Club.
Not lemon.
Gotcha.
No, they probably drink some lemonade.
no, nowadays I bet Miriam's part of the Red Hat Society.
Oh my god. Do you know what the Red Hat Society is,
I
Michael?
do not know.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Is this a Southern thing?
Yes.
Oh, no.
So let me just. I'm sorry, we're getting off on a tangent here, but the Red Hat Society is this group of little old women, and they wear red hats, red and purple, I believe.
Okay.
I don't even know, like, do they support a charity? I don't know. All I know is they wear these ugly hats and they have these luncheons. And when I worked at the restaurant that I worked at back home, they would come in once a month and there'd be like 25 of them. Okay. And so when we'd be prepping the restaurant and going through the reservation books, like you'd pull out that day's reservations. And
Yeah.
I just, every time I saw the Red Hat Society, I'd be like, God damn it. Because all they're going to order is a fucking chicken salad croissant with a house salad, and they're going to tip their servers like $1.25.
Can I
if
get
that.
a
Oh
sweet
my
tea and a
God.
water?
Oh my God. No, we had fruit tea at our restaurant. So it was
Oh.
like sweet tea with some pineapple juice. Really good, really refreshing. But they didn't, it's not fruit. It was, can I get some of that fruited tea? Fruited tea? I want the fruited tea and a water and a bowl of oranges, please. Like, God damn, get the fuck out. Can't y'all do this at Myrtle's house? Like, shit.
God.
But anyways, that's my Red Hat Society
Oh.
story.
That goes right along with it.
Yeah, but I definitely think that Miriam would be a Red Hat lady.
Okay, so one of the questions though, what was, because of course this was a very first time viewing for me, never seen this movie, didn't really have a whole lot of an idea of what it was going to be about going into it, but in general, like, because a lot of the notes that I was kind of like taking while I was watching it was very like whatever popped in my head like while I was watching it. Wasn't necessarily questions, it was kind of like thoughts. So what though was your first like impression the first time you saw Charlotte?
Oh, I thought she was a hot mess, but I was like, oh, this is a woman that's got her shit together, because when she comes out, so at the towards the beginning of the movie, there's construction people there, and they're working on her property, because inevitably her property is going to get torn down to build a road, I think.
A bridge.
or a road.
Yeah, a bridge and a road.
And she comes out, guns a-blazing with her shotgun, and she's ready to, like, shoot those motherfuckers. And I thought, that is Granny Ann. That's my grandma. Like, she would do that. Yes, absolutely.
I actually thought that it gave me some very like Weezer vibes from Steel Magnolias.
Yes.
Oh, I
Like
could
that
see
was
that.
kind of like the vibe that I got overall.
Yeah.
Because I actually wrote in my notes, I put, she just wants to be left alone, and I can relate. Like
She
that's
does.
literally like what
Just
I
leave her the
wrote.
hell alone. Yeah.
Well, it's just funny because when she's introduced and you see her, you know, obviously there's the party at the beginning where she's a teenager, and she's got the blood on her dress because I guess we should say, you know, at this debutante ball or summer party or whatever it was, there was a murder, and John Mayhew was murdered. And so Charlotte pretty much grew up being known as the murderess. Okay, so then all these years go by, and then you have her coming out on her porch with a shotgun. But, like, for me, like, I thought that's how she was going to be through the whole movie, but she completely changes by the end of it. Like,
yeah.
she's not this scary old woman that she's portrayed to be at the beginning.
Well, yeah, like I feel like throughout the movie, you kind of, it does a really good job of like altering your own like thought process of how you took in these characters, because like they obviously make you want to think that Charlotte's like the bad one, right?
Yeah.
And then Miriam comes in and she's just supposed to be like this hoity-toity, like, oh, I'm, better than everything, whatever. Obviously that changes over time, and I was just kind of shook by that. And then
it's like a complete role reversal
Yeah.
for both of them, because there were times in the movie, like just me watching it and having watched so many movies like this, when Miriam comes in and, her character is established, I thought, she's a shady bitch. Like, maybe she killed him. But then Charlotte's just fucking batshit crazy, and you're like, well, maybe it's Charlotte. Hell, I don't know. Like,
oh, I mean, I pretty much went through a pretty good, like, suspect list with it.
Yeah.
I mean, because at one point I was like, Velma's a little bit shady here. Like,
Velma is all over the place.
She is, and she was very, like, questionable, though. Like, the way that... But it turned out that, like, all the parts where you were, like, questioning her, it was really her, like, kind of standing up for Charlotte.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah.
I guess that they almost made you want to believe. What is that, a red herring? Isn't that where they want you to believe that it's somebody? But
So Velma, she's the one played by Agnes Moorehead. I believe she was nominated for an Oscar.
She was
for her role,
supporting actress,
and she plays Charlotte's. I don't want to say maid. It's really her housekeeper,
Yeah.
and it seems like maybe they've grown up together. But she's very protective of Charlotte. I would say arguably the best character in the movie.
Oh,
I think she's hilarious. You get a lot of really good lines from her, but also as like when she gets annoyed with people, she has this way of like saying stuff under her breath, and you don't really know what she's saying, but she's like telling off Miriam. So like she'll walk away and it's just like that's all you hear. It's just mumbling, and it's just she's amazing in that role. And really, that's a really great cast, because aside from her, you've got Olivia de Havilland and Bette Davis, who both at that time had won 2 Academy Awards. So these weren't just run-of-the-mill actresses. These were
prestigious.
Prestigious actresses that were adored. And of course, going off a kind of a tangent here, if you watched Feud, Betty and Joan, Ryan Murphy's show on, I think it was on FX, then you know that Joan Crawford was originally supposed to star alongside Bette Davis in this movie, and Joan ended up faking an illness and costing the studio a bunch of money, and then they ended up firing her. And Bette Davis and Olivia de Havilland were really good friends, and Betty called her in. I'm assuming the script went through a rewrite, but having watched it with Olivia de Havilland, I don't know that. I mean,
Joan could have pulled that role off.
I don't know that Joan could have done it.
I don't think she could have.
Olivia de Havilland has this softness about her.
Yeah.
And she's classy, and she's like a woman of stature. Like she's important. She knows she's important. I don't know. I don't know that Joan could have pulled that off as well.
I don't think she could have, but
it would have been a different movie.
It would have been a different movie, completely.
It would have just been Baby Jane again.
Yeah. It would have.
Yeah.
It would have. It probably best thing that ever happened to that movie was Joan getting sick and then getting fired.
Going back to like what you were saying though, you mentioned something about the beginning of the movie where she's like a teenager at the party and stuff. So a little background on me, I did go to school for like film and production and things like that. So I have a tendency to kind of critique things the way they look when I'm watching movies.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest things to me with any movie, I feel like from this kind of era of movies, this decade really, is like there's a lot of emphasis on shadows.
Yes.
So in that scene in particular where Charlotte's, a teen, whatever, and she like, you don't see her face throughout the entire opening of the movie. And I thought that was actually pretty powerful. Because then the first time you see her is like when she's like in the chair. She like hops up or whatever.
Yeah.
So
do we want to talk about that scene?
Well, first I want to say I really like that you brought that up, because a lot of the notes I had talked about the cinematography and the lighting, because the whole movie is shot like that. There's shadows casted on the characters, almost to the point where it's almost a little distracting sometimes when you're watching the scene. Obviously, it was all done on purpose, but there's a scene where they're having dinner. The three of them are having dinner, and the shadows are cast like over their faces, and I thought that was done really well, and I think it all ties into like that one line that Charlotte says. At one point, she says, "Don't turn on the light. It's not real when it's light. It's only real when it's dark, dark and still." So I feel like there you go. Like the lighting choice was anchored pretty much on that one line that Charlotte has.
What were your thoughts on it?
Oh, on the lighting? I love the lighting. It was beautiful. And the dinner scene that you're talking about, I really love. I noticed how like Bette Davis's character and
Doc.
Yes, Dr. Drew. They were both in full light, but when it would go to Miriam, it was only her face and the rest was shadow. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting how they did that.
Could it have been foreshadowing?
It could have been foreshadowing.
You know what, though? I didn't even
Oh, yeah.
I didn't actually pick up on that.
And see, when I watched the movie, I watched the first half of it, and then I went back and started out. So I actually saw that scene twice.
Yeah.
And I loved the lighting, but I didn't even pick up on the
It's
fact
first
that
thing
it was
I noticed. I don't know, because Bette Davis and Doc are full light and just her face and the rest is shadow. And I was like, oh, that's really cool.
That I will say that's my favorite scene in the entire movie. That dinner scene has some of the most
wonderful
epic lines, I think. They're delivered so well. That's probably, I'd say that's hands down my favorite.
I actually
scene.
have a line from that scene written down.
Oh, there's so many good
lines.
lines.
I do too.
So,
you're a vile, sorry little bitch.
Oh, mine was public relations. Sounds like something dirty to me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, because Miriam, was she living in New York at the time? When
she was.
Came? So she was living in New York, pursuing a career in public relations. But, after having the movie, I'm like, well, is that even, like, did she even have a job? Yeah. Because it seems to me she was just mooching off, what's her face?
Mary Astor's character.
Mayhew's wife.
Jewel,
yes. Yeah. So, eventually it's revealed that she was... Jewel. So who actually killed John Mayhew? Jewel, his wife, killed John Mayhew, but Olivia de Havilland's Miriam was in on it.
Well, I think she saw it as well, and that's why she blackmailed her.
Well, yes. And then pretty much drained her dry.
Yeah.
And in the film, Jewel's like pretty much on her deathbed. She's been really ill.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of like animosity because when Miriam comes to town, they run into each other and she's very, oh my gosh, Jewel, how are you? And Jewel's like,
get away from me.
Yeah.
And in true Southern fashion, she's like, oh, we don't need to do this out in public.
That is true. But it was, I don't know. There's just, I didn't put two and two together until much later. Oh, that was his wife.
Yeah. No, I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't, because they don't really make mention of her name in that scene, right? I mean, I could be wrong. But, I didn't pick up on that until much later. But yeah, Miriam was pretty much draining her dry, and blackmailing her. And the only reason, we come to find out the only reason she's come back is to pretty much take ownership of all of Charlotte's belongings as well. Because Charlotte is very wealthy, and her dad left her, Papa,
Yes.
left her in a, pretty good predicament as far as money goes. But I will tell you, by the end of this movie, when you finally figure out everything, you figure out that Miriam's in on it. The whole scheme that her and Doc pulled on Charlotte, I was shook.
I was absolutely shook. I was sitting there, I mean, it completely took me by surprise.
I was shook, and like the amount of fucking planning that must have taken. But I mean, I don't know. Towards the end, you find out pretty quickly. Like, yeah, Miriam's in on this shit. Like, what's happening? And I even put on here in my notes. I said Miriam is shady. So then, when it's revealed that Doc is in on it too, and I guess they're kind of. I mean, I don't know that I'd call them a couple, but he's very clearly attracted to her in some sort of way. And then at the end, they have they're having their wine before the big climax, and obviously there's something going on there. But when I found out he was in on it, I was like, what a son of a bitch. And the whole prank that they pull on Charlotte is ridiculous. And if you haven't seen the movie, like, obviously you need to watch it. It's done really well, but they're pretty much making Charlotte think that she's going crazy, to the point of, like, when you're watching it, you're like, oh, she is going crazy. But it's them. They're doing this to her, and they're drugging her. And Doc ends up getting shot. Well, they dump his body, I believe, in a river of some sort. Like, they wrap him up and dump him in a river.
Yeah.
But then Doc shows back up, and he's covered in mud and grass, and he's wet. And it was all a fucking prank to, like, make Charlotte think she's going crazy.
To get her money.
To get her money.
Yes.
Like...
Years long, whatever you would call it.
Well, yeah, because... I mean,
all that,
you get that,
I called it fan mail.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yes.
But all those letters, years.
Actually,
I think this was 27 or 37 years later, from the beginning to this. I mean, this was years.
Because I know
she was planning this.
I actually made a note in here about, like, how the whole fan mail thing, where she pulls out all these letters, and I was like, wow, this is like, you know, what social media does now.
Yes.
Where, like, you just have, like, trolls on Twitter that make you believe crazy shit, and then, but back then, obviously, that wasn't an option, so they just mailed her all these letters.
Handwritten letters, snail mail it,
Well, I just wasn't expecting that big twist, like, twist of events, because there's one scene where Charlotte sees John's hand, and she screams, and there's a hatchet in the ground, and you see Miriam, and she looks disgusted, but not shocked.
Not like,
you're not sure if, is there
really
a hand
there?
or is it not there? But then you go back later, obviously there's no hand, but there's marks in the ground.
Yeah.
So then I thought, okay, well, maybe she's not crazy. Now, would I have ever in a million years guessed that they planted a fake hand to make Charlotte think?
Oh my gosh.
I never would.
When they took that box with, like, the
fake
head, I was like, what?
Roll down the stairs.
Yeah, it was bananas.
I feel like for it to, and maybe it's just my ignorance of movies from, like, that period of time, or maybe I've just never really seen a quote-unquote horror movie from
the early 60s.
Other than, like, Psycho. But, like, I was a little surprised, like, even in the beginning when they chopped his hand off.
That was,
I was like,
more gory than I thought it was going to be.
It.
Yeah,
I
was
wasn't
surprised.
expecting that.
I wasn't either.
But it's funny because obviously I'd never seen this before, but going into it, I thought, is this really a horror movie? I mean, but then you watch the beginning and you get, like, just a little taste. And then the rest of the movie goes on, and it doesn't really feel like a horror movie. It just kind of feels like a mystery until I'd say the last part of the movie, like the third act, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, this is why this is a horror movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say that I was already horrified as soon as it started because of the damn kids singing. I don't do well with, like, little children singing songs and shit. I think it's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
And it made me think of, like, Nightmare on Elm Street with all the little 1, 2, and, like, all that stuff. That's literally where my mind went. So I was like, okay.
But I liked its incorporation because I was like, oh, okay, Homegirl's got a theme song. She's important.
I know.
She might be murderous, but she's got a theme song, honey.
She sure did.
I will say one thing, like, speaking about, like, themes of the movie, just overall themes in general, I wrote down, I was like, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And it's like one of those things, I kind of thought about that when I first thought it in terms of Charlotte, but then I was thinking about it also it could really almost apply to Joel, Miriam, or Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And then, I mean, of course, poor Velma. I mean,
yeah, poor Velma.
I was shocked at that too. I wasn't expecting her to kick the bucket.
I will say it's funny that you mentioned that though, because towards the end of the movie, it's and I spoke to this earlier, kind of like a role reversal. But Miriam goes crazy a little bit there for a minute, and I almost, like, as I was watching it, thinking about it after the fact, I thought, do you think there was a point in time where Miriam thought, shit, I'm not going to get away with this? Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to do
for
this.
sure.
I think that was part of her whole thing, was that she has lived this life, especially we're assuming it's been like 30 something years
Yeah.
that they've been keeping up with this ruse. And it's like, in that moment, I think she really did feel like she was like, wow, well, I have to do something because I'm not going to get away with this.
Yeah.
So
I love when Miriam's veneer cracks, and I'm like, ooh.
yeah, because
You see this whole different
she's
side
messy.
of her.
She's-
Yes.
well,
And she slaps the shit out
she
of
does.
Charlotte. I'm like, oh.
because she's like, you know, a little bit of a control freak. So like
Yeah.
when you see that control,
Who does that remind y'all of?
I mean, I don't know. Let me sip my tea.
You know, I felt like through the whole movie, I kept thinking, everybody is so suspicious to me. Like, obviously Charlotte, obviously Miriam, but even the doctor, like, before you find out he's involved, like, he just seems too good of a character to be true. Because he's like a good guy, you know?
Yeah.
Even the news reporter that comes into town, I can't remember
The older
his
guy?
name. Yeah.
Wait, the younger news reporter? Because there was two.
The older
insurance...
news reporter that...
Not the one taking pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, the one that ended up taking a tour. Like, Charlotte gave him a little
Yes.
tour of the
They all
house.
did seem suspicious.
I'm trying to remember Hatchet. No, that's not it.
This movie was really good at doing redirects and making you think, what is going on?
So when the reporter comes in, he seems suspicious. You've got this random female character that obviously you find out later is Jewel, but she's suspicious. And then even in the beginning when you've got Papa, I mean, he's a very minor role. Well, minor role to us, but a major role in the grand scheme of things because
Yeah.
Charlotte talks about him throughout the whole movie. She's obsessed with her Papa and is convinced that he killed John. But even his character's suspicious. Like, the whole movie, all the characters are just suspicious as fuck. Like, it's like, okay, this could end up anyway because I'm confused. They're all suspicious. They're all really... All the characters are really great red herrings.
Oh,
even,
yeah.
Right.
even Velma. Like, all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a good job at portraying, like, crazy, too. As far as... Because, I mean, there is the obvious of, like, everything in Charlotte's world is pretty much... has stayed the same for the last 30-something years. And you don't really know why, of course, in the beginning. But you're sitting there and, like, I just remember watching it and being like, I mean, is she crazy? I felt bad for her, especially when I find out everything that's, like, happened.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here and I'm like, damn. Like, I really thought that she had, like, done all this and, like, was just
And she didn't do any of it.
going bonkers over, like... And then just, like, all the scenes where she's, like, seeing John and hearing the songs. And then when
Shooting
you
the mirrors.
Yeah, and then when you see it all played out where they're, like, doing all of this, like, pranking her, and then you're like, damn, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That is fucked up.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was funny, towards the end, of course, when Drew dies, Charlotte shoots him, right? Like,
Yes.
Charlotte shoots him. And all of that's planned. But, you know, Charlotte is willing to give Miriam all of her money.
To help her.
To help her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's willing to just give all of her money away just to get helped. And it's just sad. It was sad.
It is actually really sad.
It is. And, you know, man, Miriam is a bitch.
Yeah.
Because Charlotte actually cared for Miriam.
Yeah, she was excited for her.
And all all Miriam wanted was her money.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why she came.
Money is the root of all evil, y'all.
It is the root of all
Apparently.
evil. And, you know, it's just funny thinking about it now because I'm like, oh, man, how much did Charlotte have? Like, millions of dollars, but it was probably like 10,000. Because, you know,
Inflation.
Yes.
yeah. I do love the ending so much.
Me too.
Because, I mean, there for a minute, I even thought, oh, wow, they might actually...
She's going to get in the...
Yeah, she's
put
going to get in the car and they're going to
yeah.
send her away to a mental hospital or something. And Doc, Drew, and Miriam are out enjoying, I guess, wine or champagne.
Enjoying
or
the fruits of
something.
their labors.
Yeah, they're celebrating.
I think they're going to go off to
And
France or Europe.
Charlotte drops that big cement flower pot on them.
That was the most rewarding
It
part of the
literally
movie.
was.
I loved it.
I watched it and I was like, you know what? I don't even feel bad for those
Nope.
fuckers.
No,
They
no.
deserved every single bit
No.
that planner on their head.
Well, and it was great foreshadowing too, because that's what she did at the beginning of the
Yep.
movie, and I never thought that was going to come back up, and it
Me
did, and in
either.
the best way possible. It was so gratifying. I would have loved to have
it.
seen their bodies. I know that's really morbid, but I would like to see what their mutilated
After they got
bodies
crushed.
looked like. Yeah,
Crushed by a
Yes.
planner.
yeah. And you know, it was kind of a happy ending, because there for a minute I thought, wow, is this not gonna? I don't know. I wanted a happy ending for her, and when she's going off, the whole town is there, and they all still think she's a murderess, you know. And at this point, hell, she doesn't even know herself, I don't think.
No, she probably still thinks that she might be a little crazy.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. She
Yeah.
doesn't even really know herself, like what the actual story is, and that the reporter gives her a letter
That Jewel
That
gave
Jewel
him.
gave
that
him.
Joel gave him, and
Which I thought was also great.
yes.
Because, I mean, obviously when she gives him that note and tells him, you know, don't open this, you'll know, like, you'll know when or whatever.
Yeah, she says not to open it until she passes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, you obviously left that scene like, damn, now I really want to know what's in that letter. Like, so, I mean, they do a good job of definitely making you, like, keeping your interest. There was never a moment where I was like, I mean, there was plenty of moments where I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But I never like lost interest in where it was going. I was
Yeah.
along for the ride the whole time. So,
Well, and you know, we really don't ever know what the letter says, do we? I don't think it's read on screen, but he gives it to Charlotte. And so my only thought is Charlotte reads that, and Jewel is
Tells
confessing
her,
to what happened.
yeah.
And Charlotte can, you know what, live the rest of her fucking life, an old spinster woman, but like knowing that she's not actually, I mean, she's still kind of crazy, but that she's not, you know,
Yeah.
she hadn't seen all that, like it's not all in her head, like all this really happened to her. I don't know.
but can you imagine what that would feel like? Like, if you went the last 7 years thinking this
Is
and
what
then you
happened.
turn around and get one simple little piece of paper that tells you, oh, hey, surprise, it's all a joke. What? Like-
Yeah.
But you know what's even funnier? And I was just thinking about this, like a letter. Like, could you imagine, like, if I got a letter today and it said, "Hey, this is so and so, and this is what really happened." Who the fuck really wrote this? You know,
Right.
like,
Think it's fake.
you know, that was how you
Yeah.
communicated back in 1964. You wrote a letter and you sealed it, put a little stamp on it, and called it a day. But, yeah, I really liked the ending. I was very satisfied.
As was I.
I mean, was there, because I have like a few different lines written down from the movie that I felt like were very telling of like the story. And one of them was actually where I'm pretty sure it's Dr. Drew, when they're standing out there talking, him and Miriam, just before I think she drops the planner on him, when they're
Okay.
like celebrating or whatever.
Yeah.
And he makes the comment about people who obliged to live alone have a habit of creating company for themselves. And I was like, because that's like almost saying you're crazy, you're making this shit up in your head. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like that line in general, I feel like movies back in the day kind of came up with like these really well thought out like dialogues and like monologues and things that nowadays we don't really get. Everything's very like, you know, well, I mean, watered down probably is the best way to put it. But back then everybody was so prim and proper, and it was like the way that they spoke, which I
Yeah.
guess kind of speaks to the time. But that was one of the lines that
The way people spoke to each other was just elevated in general. But one other thing that I just saw in my notes that I wanted to quickly bring up as it pertains to the South.
Okay.
Sam's political connections kept Charlotte out of jail. So she never actually went to jail, even though everybody thought she committed this crime
Yeah.
because of the political connections in the movie. And she was wealthy, and it makes me think of small town. Like,
Oh, for sure.
because when I tell you shit like that still happens in my hometown, 100%.
Oh, even something as simple as like, oh, you know the sheriff of the town? Well, we'll get you out of that ticket. It's okay.
Yeah, can you shred
like,
this?
I mean,
Yeah, no.
there's just certain things that still apply to those small towns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, Ryan's from a small town, my partner. So like, when we go back there, it's like, almost culture shock how different it is from living in Nashville.
Oh, I'm sure.
So,
and I may have told you guys this story before, but I think it's a good, time to bring it up. Maybe not you, Michael, but I've definitely told Mike. There were a few things that happened in my hometown years and years ago that were a little shady, like a missing lady, and then a man ended up getting murdered, and still to neither one of them are no, it's still an open case. But at one point, there was speculation that certain wealthy people in my hometown were involved. And out of nowhere, the sheriff's department, the sheriff and three of the deputies, or two of the deputies, I don't know, ended up getting gifted 3 brand new Harley Davidsons.
Oh.
People were speculating that was from this wealthy family that may have been involved in these crimes, and nothing, like I said, it's still an open case. But let me just tell you,
crazy.
The whole shredding of the ticket stuff, my dad was a captain at the fire department, okay? And when I tell you I got my first ticket at 17 and was like, hey, Dad, can you do something about this? Hell no, you got to pay that goddamn ticket. That's what you get for going 75 and a 40. I sure did.
You learned your lesson.
Pay that ticket.
You learned your lesson?
I haven't gotten a speeding ticket since, so...
You learned your lesson.
I cannot say the same. But all of my tickets were in Nashville, so I definitely couldn't get off. Speaking about, a little bit more Southern isms that I kind of thought about towards the end of the movie. So, there at the end, I was like, this is literally quintessential Southern. When she is walking out of the house and the whole motherfucking town is literally in her front yard. I mean, if they had cameras back then, everybody probably would have had one. If that movie was filmed nowadays, everybody would have their phones
Everybody
up,
would have had their phone up,
recording, because it was a big deal. And then of course you see all these little
gossips.
You see all these women standing around just gossiping amongst themselves, oh my God, there she is.
And if it was the 90s, everybody would have had their disposable camera, taking pictures.
Their yellow Kodak,
or the kids would have their Game Boy cameras. Do you remember the Game Boy cameras?
Yes.
I have
Michael
a Game
doesn't.
Boy.
He's too old. They took pictures, and then you have a little printer, and they were the worst. And then they were stickers, so then you could stick them on stuff, but a week they'd fade. You couldn't even tell what it was.
Oh. I have nothing to add to that.
Okay.
I guess back then he just had those little things, that you had the spiral pictures that you'd click the side.
Oh my God.
The little red Fisher Price. Yeah.
Oh.
And you could see a mountainscape and then a rainbow.
Or if you were lucky, a Disney movie.
Oh.
They had the Gremlin ones for that. Whatever that thing's called, I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't know what it is either.
I'm getting tired of your old jokes. I would like to bring up the continuity of the movie, specifically the beginning.
Okay.
Because it was a little weird to me, and I'm surprised that they went with the editing choices and the direction that they did, because it's clearly in the beginning of the movie, it's Bette Davis in that room talking to John. Clearly is Bette Davis. They have her in the foreground so you don't see up close to her, because they don't want you to see that it's old Bette Davis. And then she leaves, and then you see young Charlotte, which is clearly a completely different actress, but that has been dubbed by Bette Davis. That's very bad as well. And I'm like, what in the hell is this? And then I also noticed throughout the movie, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there was a newspaper article, and it had 4 different pictures. It clearly was a picture of young Bette Davis from one of her old movies, like Jezebel or one of them. And then Miriam was suddenly brunette, but in the beginning of the movie, she was clearly blonde. And I'm like, why did they choose that photo when there's obviously a hair color difference? And then what I also thought was interesting, there's a magazine article, and they show a picture of Charlotte, and I'm like, that's a publicity still from All About Eve.
Oh, I did catch that. I did definitely catch that.
I was surprised that they went with those things that are very recognizable, especially for someone like Bette Davis. But I also know that I saw promo photos of Bette Davis in that white dress covered in blood, but that's not actually in the movie. So I'm wondering if she actually shot that whole scene and they're like, we can't do this close up of her because we can tell that she's old. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I want to know what happened, why they didn't use the actress they obviously hired to play young Charlotte.
I mean, that's a really good point. And I will say this too. I know that there's young Miriam at the beginning, but you never hear her name at the beginning.
I just figured it was her.
Well, I did too, but I was waiting for the connection and I never got it. And I was like, well, hell, maybe that was just some random girl. Hell, I don't know. Maybe it was Velma. I don't fucking know. Like,
Well, I actually went through and like, so in the first, like, probably 15 minutes, probably right before the party and everything, through the party and all that, where you're trying to get like characters established and things like that. I remember thinking, I was like, I don't know who the fuck anybody is. Like, I mean, I obviously know who Papa is, and I knew who Charlotte was because they show her picture up in his office and all that stuff. And I was like, but why are we like talking to all these? I don't know who anybody is. And so that, I mean, to kind of go along with a little bit of that, where I didn't even know Miriam was in the beginning, like at all.
Yeah, you don't make that connection until the end.
Because they don't say her name,
Yeah. But I think they do that on purpose, too. Like, to make you think, okay, we had this cast of characters at the beginning. How are they playing into the later part of the movie?
Yeah.
Which I think was effective. But I would have liked a clear, this is my cousin Miriam at the at the ball. It would have, I don't know, it would have made, like when she comes to visit, it would explain why Charlotte's so excited that she's there. Like, oh, they've grown up together.
Yeah,
like,
it would have established like their relationship a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as like continuity stuff, I usually pick up on things like that.
Yeah.
Just in movies in general, because it does drive me crazy.
Did you notice that in the beginning when you watched it?
But
I'm surprised you didn't. It really threw me off. I'm like, what?
I'm not as like well versed in all of the worlds of like, seeing pictures of her from like previous like movies and things.
Well,
like
for
that.
me, it was clearly old Bette Davis, and I'm like, she's playing, very young there, and you could tell it was old Bette Davis, so that's why it threw me off from the beginning.
Which I guess goes right back to where we were talking about earlier with maybe that was the whole reason that they put the shadow across her face. We're like, whoa.
They kept her in the foreground. They weren't doing any close-ups for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Until the young actress they played to play young Charlotte came in, and I'm like, that's a completely different person.
Yeah, it's clearly her voice though.
And
the voice is
so badly dubbed.
unmistakable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One other, last thing that I wanted to mention, towards the end of the movie, when it's before Charlotte kills Drew. And she's gone back, like in her head, she's at the ball.
Yeah.
In the background, everybody has masquerade masks.
Oh, I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah.
I thought it was really. I thought it was well done. So, the only person that does not have a mask on is Papa.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Papa's the only one that doesn't have a mask on. Everybody else, and they're kind of creepy.
Oh, very.
But I really liked that scene.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
I did like that.
It kind of makes me think, the whole movie, she's obsessed with, like, she obviously cared for her Papa a lot, which, I don't know. I got, like, weird vibes from him, too, at the beginning. Like
incestual vibes?
Yeah, like, there was something.
I didn't really get incestual. I just got, like, really overbearing.
Yeah.
Which I guess back in those days was a very common thing. And, I mean, I'm sure Papa was aware that John was married, and
he was.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, he was probably a little bit more, aggravated.
He didn't want his reputation ruined. Back then,
true.
it was.
That's
and
true.
I mean, so like he's going to come off a little bit even more overbearing than he may already be.
Yeah.
Because this is his daughter.
His only daughter. His only child, I guess.
Only child.
Yeah. She's his only child.
You good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Mike is good. Okay, so we wanted to do something a little different that I mean, I don't know, maybe this has been done on podcasts before, but we thought it would be fun and or funny. So we thought it would be interesting if we reenacted a scene from the movie that we're reviewing. And so we haven't, so just so you know, Michael picked the scene, picked the script, picked the lines, and he's
Assigned characters.
He's assigned characters. Okay, so Mike and I have not seen the script that we're working with, and we're calling this segment Horror Fried Theater. Michael, would you like to set the scene, please?
I sure would. My favorite scene in the movie, we are at a very nice, large dinner table.
Oh my God, yes.
And I think that's where we need to start. Should I say who we are?
Yeah, I think you should say
I am playing Drew because it has the least lines. Charlotte will be played by Mike, and Miriam will be played by Keith. I cannot do a Southern accent.
This is a role of a lifetime for me.
Are you going to win an Oscar?
I don't know, maybe.
So.
Okay, so. Okay.
Mike?
So, everybody.
I didn't know I told you where the keys to the cellar were. Thank you. I can't remember the last I dined here. Papa used to say this was his favorite room. I guess that's because he used to eat so much. You know, Miriam, when this mess with this house is straightened out, we can throw parties here again. Why not? What's so impossible about that?
It would be lovely.
Yes, it would be nice. Aren't you forgetting about the limit they put on you vacating the house? You've got to be out of here a week from Monday, and there's no two ways about it.
You carry on like you remember the Department of Roads and Bridges or something. Miriam will tell them where to get off, won't you, cousin darling?
I wish I could.
Charlotte, you have got to understand there is nothing, absolutely nothing Miriam or anyone else can do about it. They are going to tear down this house, and that is final.
Oh, you are so stuffy. They took their smelly old equipment out of here, didn't they? Miriam isn't frightened by a bunch of crooked politicians. It wouldn't surprise me if Joel Mayhew's behind all of this.
That is ridiculous.
Is it? You notice they aren't laying a finger on her land. They're destroying my house, but not touching hers. I rented a car for you. You can go tomorrow.
Go where?
Baton Rouge, and put that damn county commissioner straight.
Charlotte, there is nothing I won't do for you. I messed it up. Charlotte, there is nothing I wouldn't do for you if I could. You know that, but I'm afraid Drew is right. There isn't anything we can do about the house. You have to leave.
What do you think I asked you here for, company? I thought you were going to help me.
But I shall. That is why I came to help, to be with you.
To be with me? I've lived alone here ever since Papa died. The only people I ever see are Velma and Drew, who comes out when he feels like it, just to see if I'm still alive, and a bunch of sneaky idiots who come out to make fun of me. Do you think I'd ask you here just to be with me?
Charlotte, she is just trying to help, just trying to lend a helping hand.
Oh yes, I can see that. She's just breaking her back. God, do you have gratitude? When you first came here after your precious Papa died, you acted as if we weren't good enough for you and your mama, a sorry up north waitress.
Charlotte, that is enough.
Let her talk. It gives her any sort of satisfaction.
When you first came here, Papa took you downtown and bought you a whole new wardrobe. Does it insult you to remember that?
Yes, I remember he took your poor up north cousin downtown for a whole new wardrobe. Down to Sleazy's store he wouldn't even let you set foot in.
Oh, that wasn't good enough for you. Papa didn't give you enough. Well, maybe that's what you came back here for, to get the rest of Papa's money.
Papa! Charlotte! I have a career and I've given up valuable time to come here.
Oh, I know. What is it you call it? Oh, yes. Public relations? Sounds like something pretty dirty to me.
Charlotte, the dirt is entirely in your own mind.
I wouldn't dwell on it if I were you, Charlotte. She didn't come here to be insulted.
No, most likely she came to help Joel Mayhew drive me out of my own house.
Charlotte, you can't mean that.
Why wouldn't Miriam conspire with Joel against me? Who was it went sneaking off to Joel and told her about me and her husband in the first place? Didn't know that, did you, Drew? That's something you never told your precious boyfriend, isn't it? Isn't it so, Miriam? Isn't it, cousin darling?
Yes, I told Joel. I told your father, too. After all, I was a little more than a child then, and all I ever got in this house were people telling me how lucky I was, and your father always favoring you and holding you up as an example. So why wouldn't I tell him, your father, that this pure, darling girl was having a dirty little affair with a married man?
You're a vile, sorry little bitch!
How was I to know it would end in murder, with John being butchered?
No, you wouldn't have known that, and you couldn't have known that when Drew found out he was so frightened of having his fine old name leaked to the press, he'd walk out on you. But Drew's still here, and you're both still alive, and I'm still here, but John never even... John?
She's deranged! Drew, she must be!
Well, no, certainly worse than when I last wrote you, but not to the extent of being committed. Sorry, there is no way to avoid the problem. There are times when she genuinely doesn't know what she is saying.
On the other hand, I thought she described it the way you left me quite accurately.
If it's any comfort, I've always regretted letting you go.
We don't have time for regrets now, Drew, and there's a lot to regret.
Scene.
Oh my god, that was...
was...
You did a great job.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
I am simply
You really
pleased.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know where it came from. I just dug real deep.
Well, if we were giving out awards on tonight's episode of this podcast, you would definitely be winning.
Yes,
Well,
you would.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the Academy and, most importantly, God.
That was, I'm not gonna lie, that was really fun.
That was fun. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
More importantly, I hope you guys listening enjoyed that because that was a real journey here.
Oh.
Oh my gosh. So, final thoughts. Here at Horror Fried, we're going to rate our films using the heat scale of a Nashville delicacy, which is hot chicken. I will be using these temperatures on a scale of 1 to 5, obviously 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, and they go from no spice, mild, medium, hot, and Nashville hot. Okay, so Michael, you want to start? What rating would you give this movie?
I'm definitely giving this a Nashville Hot 5. I absolutely love this movie. Enjoyed it a lot.
So what did you like most about it?
Oh, Agnes Moorehead. I mean, she was the best thing in the... Yeah, she deserved that Oscar nom. She was so good. I love a good character actor.
Yeah. Mike?
I am going to go with hot. I mean, I loved the movie. I thought it was great. I just have like, I don't know. I feel like I'm one of those really hard people to please when it comes to like a movie. I don't want to just hand out 5 stars. Like,
I gotcha.
Yeah, if it's not Save the Last Dance, honey, he's not interested.
I mean, basically. But
that's still a good score.
yeah,
No, that's
I mean,
a great
I feel
score.
like 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and I really wanted to, I should have said this. Like, here's the thing, and I think all of us are kind of the same. Even a bad horror movie, I enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
So even, let's just say we were to rate this no spice. Okay, well, that's just what it is. It doesn't have any spice. Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy watching it. You know?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that.
Well, what is your...
What do you rate it,
what is
Pete?
your
I
rating?
rated it Nashville Hot.
Nice.
I really liked it. And this is a movie I could probably watch over and over again just because I fucking love the dialogue. I love the delivery of the dialogue. It's shot really well. I love the shadows. Honestly,
beautiful.
probably my favorite part of the whole movie was just the shadows. That dinner scene is like epic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it.
I just think that like, because there's no way that I wouldn't give it less than 4 stars. Just because, I mean, yes, I'm not super well versed in all these movies that are like, the 60s and whatever, but I was shook. So the fact that I watched this movie that was however many years old, 80? How many?
It was in 64.
So
like
it's
60.
57.
Here at Horror Fried, we don't do math.
Yeah. But yeah, like, so the fact that I watched a movie from like, 1964.
Yeah.
And was legitimately like
Entertained.
into it,
Yeah.
entertained, and was fully surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, that says something.
Fully engaged. I laughed a lot too. I mean, those lines that they deliver, like some of them were so funny. And I'm like, literally, that could be my family home. Like,
I'm sure that is Shelbyville.
oh my, yeah, without a doubt. Are you kidding me?
Listen to him, Shelbyville.
Cheval.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'm from Cheval.
Okay.
It's
I
like-
can't say that.
Louisville.
Yeah.
I can't.
Or-
Nope, it's Louisville.
Or you can
For
just say it like the word shovel and just say Shovel, Tennessee.
Shovel, Tennessee.
Everybody
go.
will know what you're talking about.
There you go. You did good. Do that one more time.
Shovel, Tennessee.
Great job. Great job. Any last thoughts?
All I have to say is murder starts in the heart and its first weapon is a vicious tongue.
Oh.
Oh, well, I don't see how either one of us could top that, Keith. So
So we'll see y'all next time. Just as a reminder, We want to hear from y'all. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Horror Fried Podcast and slide into those DMs. If you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and rate the Horror Fried Podcast on your favorite streaming service. Links are available on our Instagram page. We've gotten really good feedback so far, so thank you so much for that. We've gotten some 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts. I'm old, so I only have Apple Podcasts. But thank you guys for the ratings. That means a lot. And to the one person that gave us a 1-star rating, you can go fuck yourself, okay? We appreciate y'all. So now it's time to swap spit and hit the road. Until next time, remember, there's not a pot too crooked that a lid won't fit. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.